discussing the road issue for as long as we've been in the community. I think it's 14 years for us. And the road issue, nothing has changed over that 14 years. And one of the reasons that I raised my hand and said I'm willing to be president was I wanted to see if we could come up with some sort of a solution that is viable for the entire community. Looking at it from a multiple different angles, it looked like there was no solution, and you start running into trouble with looking at it from different angles. And so I think it was about a year and a half ago, the HOA gave me permission to contact an attorney. And I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but one attorney led me to another attorney, I had to chase one down, trying to sit at the door of his office. He's the one that finally gave me probably the best advice. And he said, the only solution I think you're going to come up with is you've got to get a county commissioner on your side, which led me to Ben, who is running for county commissioner, which got me in the door of Tom Donnelly, who is our current Republican county commissioner of Fort Collins. And again, I won't get into all the details of that. This is not a Prairie's End issue. This is a community issue. And so when I got done working with the county commissioner with a potential solution to the problem, I went to Craig and Esther, who are part of our HOA, and Jason, primarily because he's not in our HOA and this is his cup of tea. So I sat down with both of those guys. Esther was in and out of some of that, and we discussed the possibility, and I said, I've gotten it as far as I can get it at this point. Our property's for sale, has nothing to do with this issue. We decided it was time to downsize. And so to the point I thought, I've got something here, at least I can move it over to the community. So with that in mind, Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you, and that sets the stage just a little bit.
All right, so what we've been doing, a few of us over the past few years have been doing some due diligence, trying to figure out, well, if we all wanted to do something collectively, like what's going to cost, is it realistic? So we've slowly been collecting information, and I just wanted to present a couple different repair options, as well as some different financing options that we have found. So what I'll take you through is basically give you a little bit of background, but basically repair option one would be to pave both John Galt and Getaway Drive. That is the county's preferred option. Repair option number two is pave only John Galt, but improve Getaway Drive to county standards. That is not a preferred option by the county. However, the county understands the predicament that we're in. If we can get a general consensus amongst all the residents, they'd be willing to grant us variance on that requirement. And then, repair option, finance option number one is called a PID, a public improvement district. It's basically a tax district. We'll get into the nitty-gritty details and stuff, but that is one option. Finance option number two is self-financing. There's a couple different options when it comes to that. Like everybody just wanted to get a home equity loan and bring their own pot of money to the table, but to try to get 17 households to do that stuff, it's challenging. We could try to issue bonds, but that adds like 20 to 30% additional costs on top of now you got to also pay a return rate. So while you can spread large amounts of debt over a long period of time, by the time you add on additional fees and stuff, it might be cost prohibitive. I say might. It's one of those things where if that's what we wanted to do, we really have to do some homework and spend some time crunching numbers. But I do have a couple examples and stuff, and we can go through that. Repair and finance option number three is ad hoc, which is as needed, as they arise. It's kind of like how we've been operating. It kind of works, it kind of doesn't. It just kind of depends on, we're able to get everybody to participate, or sometimes people opt not to, and so it just, when you do it, just kind of makes it difficult and challenging.
Jason,
So,
in the ad hoc, can I add something here? So ad hoc, I've been using the road grader to grade the road. You can't grade the road unless there's water. So my wife and I looked into getting a water truck and a steamroller. It's about $70,000. But if I had that, then we could grade it every 3 to 4 weeks. Now, the second item I looked at was putting in road base. So I contacted the Larimer County maintenance crews. They maintain County Road 7. I don't know if you've been out on that road, but they actually have hard clay very close to asphalt. But they said they have to do that every 2 years. Every 2 years, and after 2 times of building that, it's the same as if they built asphalt. It's the same price as asphalt. If we put road base down, road base works great as long as you don't have traffic. If you have as much traffic as we have on Getaway, what happens is 3 to 4 weeks you get the washboard. And so you have to either put new road base down or have a water truck and a steamroller to actually make road graded, pack it down. So the long term, the county told me, they said, cost of asphalt versus the cost of road base or hard base is essentially the same price.
when you start to look at your time, diesel, all that type of stuff, trying to maintain a dirt road over the long term, if you add all that up, you're going to spend more money. Not a lot, you're going to spend more if you just paved it than paid for maintenance. It's just your upfront costs for paving are high, and
Very
so
high.
it kind of, get that sticker shock. But if you were to look at, how many hours every time there's a storm event or something, we're out there doing it, 2, 3 hours. And again, wintertime, a little bit different, but I'm just talking this regular every day. You're gonna be on the road grader at least once a month or so.
There.
Um,
If you have water,
yeah,
you gotta have water.
so it's, so some of these numbers and stuff are gonna sound really large and shocking, but just try to keep it the big picture of things. We're gonna spend it one way or the other. So, anyway.
Or live with.
Yeah. Going on to background information, this kind of summarizes, like what Deanna talked about, but ultimately, reasons that we see, to do this repair. It's cheaper in the long term. You're gonna get greater service life out of the road. You're gonna get a better ride home out of the road. Some of us are gonna spend a lot less time on tractors, plowing the road, maintaining the road. So even if you bring it up to a county standard, there's going to be huge improvements over what we currently have. Drainage is a huge problem right now down there in front of your guys'. You've got that entire hillside on the other side of the road that's blocking any natural drainage to the east. So even to have a contractor come in and bring Getaway Drive up to county standards, put in real ditches, real swells, put in import road base and stuff, elevate it, get it to where it's crowned. It's going to be night and day difference compared to what we have now. Vehicle maintenance costs. I know that seems kind of weird to think about, but these roads, how many times have we got flat tires? How often are you going through your suspension, your drivetrain, ball joints, tire rods, all that stuff? This washboard destroys vehicle suspension. Vehicles are expensive. Something to think about. right, so after speaking with the county and a couple lawyers, we had come up with, a PID, self-financing, bonds, or unsecured loan, ad hoc assessments. And then 3 options have been identified with repairs: pave everything, pay John Galt, fix Getaway, or just continue to fix things as they break. There's also combinations of all of these, meaning maybe we do a PID for John Galt, and then we do self-financing for Getaway. So, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be one or the other, it can be a combination. So I guess let's kind of get maybe into some of the details here. Some of the disclaimers. So the county will not work with us to do a PID or any type of repairs unless we do both John Galt and Getaway. They say to improve one benefits the entire community. So you either improve both or you don't improve either. So it's kind of, they're not gonna let us only do one or the other. But we can also phase it. So maybe it's like, all right, well, this is all way too expensive. But right now, let's just pay Getaway. And then in 10 years from now, we'll repay John Galt or something like that. The county will work with that, but we have to come up with a plan and submit it to them. So anyway, other thing about a PID. So PID, I'll give you the brief history on it. So PID, we go to the county and say, hey, we got this project we want to do, but we can't fund it. The county will assess us property taxes, which will go into a savings account. And then that additional, it's considered a mill levy tax. But the thing is typical taxes, your property taxes pay for all sorts of, county-wide improvements and stuff, goes into the general fund and everything. This tax, 100%, is only going to be spent on us. So it's scary to think that property taxes are going to go up, but it's not that you're not going to get a benefit of it, 100% of that. So basically, the county is forcing you to put money aside, and then after so many years, once we've collected all the money, the county will then let us use the money to make the improvements. So this first option, we'll get to the finance option, but basically, you just kind of look at what you can afford. So I did one of these examples. We'll get there. I did a 5-year plan. Let's assume that we want to pave everything in 5 years. What would that cost us? So the county could not give me an exact number because the county's got this big, huge pro forma spreadsheet. They have to put all of our property values and all that type of stuff in there. They just said, take the total costs, divide it amongst however many people would be in the district, and that's about roughly out of pocket. But that's not really the case. So the county said there could be a disparity between residents on the order of 4 to 5 times, meaning the county's going to calculate how much mill levy tax they're going to charge us. So let's say it's 1.2%. Well, you guys pay 1.2% of your assessed value house. So if you've got a $3 million house, you're going to be paying 5-6 times as much as a $500,000 house. So there's some disparity there between that. So just something to think about. There's not a huge disparity, but we do have anywhere from like what 700. I would think 700,000 is probably the bottom around here for us, all up into several millions. So these numbers, the county said so running average. So all right, so repair option number 1, pays both John Galt and Getaway. So a couple years ago, I had A1 Asphalt Specialties come out and give us a proposal, a cost estimate to pay to fix John Galt and to pay Getaway. When I say fix John Galt, I mean anywhere that there's failed asphalt, they remove it, they backfill it, compact it, get it to 95% compaction. And they patch it, and then they fix everything to where basically you've got, a good solid foundation, and then they pave 2 inches of asphalt on top of it. So I used to manage the city of Wilmot's pavement management program, which is where we go through and we fix roads in the city. And so that's every year we have a certain budget, $600,000, and we try to get as much road as repaired as much road as we can. So it's basically, all right, hey, this section here's failed, they'll saw cut it, remove it, backfill it, compact it, get everything to, and so that alone would probably add another at least 10 years on the John Galt Drive before you have to do proper maintenance and maintenance. You still got to do crack seal and stuff like that, but you're talking like major repairs like chip seal. Chip seal is where they spray the oil down and they put the rock on top, and you see them out there with the sweeper, and they push all the excess rocks aside and stuff. So anyway, that's chip seal. So anyway, the gentleman gave me an estimate at the time. It was $513,000, but costs have gone up significantly since then. Labor's gone up significantly since then. So I just added 20% to that to give us a number to work with for our meeting. So $615,000 is what it's going to cost, approximately. That doesn't include permitting fees and stuff like that. The reason I bring that up is if you do a PIP, the county charges us 7% of whatever principal that we're carrying. So let's say we want to save $100,000 every year. The county's going to assess us a fee of 7%. So $7,000 a year is what the county gets, because the county is basically a hired consultant. They're helping us manage the project, making sure it's designed and constructed as per standards. They're enforcing everything. There's a lot of administrative costs and time associated with that. So the county charges us 7%. So this $615,000 is literally just to mobilize somebody. It's not all the additional costs involved. So you can see here, I don't know if you can see very well or not, but basically, this was just an exhibit that I had drawn up and I gave to the contractor for him to provide a quote. And you're looking at 0.642 miles of asphalt on John Galt and exactly 1 mile of asphalt per And then here's the cost breakdown, that $513,000. I'm not going to go through it line by line, but I just wanted to show you it's not just a lump sum. I haven't break everything out. So if let's say we wanted to, well, maybe we don't want to fix the shoulders, or maybe we don't want to do drive cuts, or we could kind of take, we could try to play with the numbers a little bit, but I do think the proposal we gave as presented would be the best. So, so repair option number 2 is paving only John Galt and improve getaway to county standards. We were not able to get a contractor to come out and provide us a quote to do that for John Galt for getaway, but we do have some recent cost estimates of what it costs us to fix the road, so we estimate $60,000.
Not to interrupt, but could you connect the dots for everybody? Because you said that they won't let us do it, but now what? You guys skipped the reason why this is even an option, right?
What?
That you guys have approval to do that, right? To not pave it, because initially you said we have to pave it. So why is repair option 2 even viable?
Because the county's willing to grant us an exception because they understand our problem. That's the bottom line.
So he talked with the county commissioner and said, like, look, we understand your rules, and that's fine and dandy if you've got an HOA of 150 homes. There's 17 of us, and the county recognizes that back in the day, would they have allowed John Galt to be paved like that and then not have a road for maintenance plan? No. The county moving forward, all that they make sure that they prevent this from happening. So, long story short, is the county recognizes the struggle that we're in and is willing to work with us, which grants us that exception. But like typically, we only do it for paving.
Did Prairie Sand is part of an RLUP, Rural Land Use Program. I've been in multiple RLUPs in the community. One of them is right over here on 23. They all have one entrance and one exit. It's a loop in every one of them. So in every one of the other RLUPs, it's the HOA who is maintaining one road. Problem we have here is we have 17 households, 10 of them independent, 7 of them part of an HOA, and they share 2 roads. So we are totally an exception. I do not know that there's another situation like it in Larimer County.
There is.
So this is the core of the issue, and this is where we got Tom Donnelly on our side to say, we understand your dilemma. Here's what we are willing to do for the community at large. That's the only reason there is a potential exception to include a gravel road in a PID.
The county's been great to work with.
Yep.
It's kind of interesting in politics about, once Tom Donnelly gave the transportation director, guidance, like just, hey, start helping these guys, answer their phone calls, but now all of a sudden, like, I return my text messages, I reply to my emails, and like, they're putting their thinking caps on. They're not coming in here like, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do that. They're trying to help us, solve these problems. So that's why, another reason we thought we should probably try to, I know this is bad timing for a million reasons, but we thought we should try to capitalize on this, because we've got the support of the Larimer County Transportation Department and County Commission.
One other item that is not listed in here, so when I talked to the county on Friday, they said they may end up requiring a survey. Because other than the John Galt road, Getaway Road has never been surveyed. And if you look at it, it kind of wiggles. Not a lot, but it doesn't go straight.
So thanks for bringing that up. This is something I forgot to mention about the PID. So if let's say we all wanted to do the PID in form of tax district, the county won't, other than replying to our emails, the county can't do anything until we dedicate John Galt and Getaway as public access. And so you're not giving up your land or anything like that. There's already an access easement for John Galt, and there's already one for Getaway. You're just now going to pay a surveyor to draw a plat map, and under notes it'll say, you know, this road is public access or it's for public use. You know, because right now, if you guys look at your plat maps and stuff where you can see your easements and everything, most of them say, you know, private use only, for this, you know, granting an easement for this one whole house. Look, I don't know, we'd have to work with the county, I don't know exactly which people would have to do that, but ultimately, people down on John Galt and those that border Getaway, there's about 12 people, and let's just assume that everybody's property line goes middle of the road. We have to get all 12 of, we have to get all 12 of those people to agree to do it. We get one holdout, one person that says, no, I'm not doing it, no, the other one. So it's just something.
I'm gonna interject there too.
Talk at all about, like, if someone were to subdivide and have a public access to the class B six, that, well, change my property significantly.
Well, I know for our property, I can't speak for everybody else, but our almost 40 acres. We are allowed only one subdivision. I can do 17 acres minimum, and that's all I'm allowed. But I can't break it up into 30 houses.
I'm gonna answer that question. It's gonna do 2 things. It's gonna improve the value for potentially subdividing, and it's gonna lower the overall expense for everybody. Because you've got another part of it contributing toward building. I want to go back to the, when I met with the county, they said we could probably even provide legal assistance to help you to keep the costs down in terms of this going through the process of deeding the property over for public access. So again, and Jason's had more communication with them lately, but They are willing to work with us, to try to help us pull this off. And then that would be one way that they can support us, by having a county attorney working on our behalf.
I'm trying to understand, Laura's question, is giving public access to make it easier for someone to subdivide? Like, I don't think anybody wants subdividing stuff happening here, but does granting public access to make it easier for them to happen? I'm trying to understand the issue.
I don't know, I just know that the house that is on the market, but everyone has to go through our property and to, we want us to try and subdivide. So if and he was trying for more taxes, which, yes, would mean some other changes, but it would also a lot more traffic.
If somebody did subdivide, would that automatically put them under the PID if one was established?
I think so, yeah.
Unless they use a helicopter to get in on the property.
Any residents or any parcel that benefits from this would be included. I don't know, like, let's say Francis subdivided 10 years from now, we've already done the improvements, everybody's already spent a bunch of money. Moving forward, I'm assuming that person doesn't owe us anything. Like, we've already been using it, there was not a use for that road, that new property, so that new property was subdivided. So, they'll be still contributing for long-term maintenance, but there's not gonna be any,
This,
yeah.
and for me, I want to subdivide mine more, I told kids. If I wanted to subdivide more, I have to get the city commission to vote to allow me to do that. I can't do it just because I want to, and I can't get some county rules to allow me to do it. I have to get the actual county commissioners to vote to allow me to do that.
But Laura, to answer your question, I don't think it's gonna make it any easier for someone to subdivide. What it could do is it could make it more attractive for somebody to subdivide. They're like, oh, hey, with this tape now, but regardless, people can subdivide at any time, So there's nothing really. All right, so let's look at finance option number one. Let's look at some numbers. I did some basic math. So let's assume that everybody wants to pay John Galt to get away dry. And let's assume that we want to make these improvements in 5 years. What's it going to cost you? Ultimately, if you take $615,000 in construction costs, I did the math, you're going to be looking at about $43,000 in annual fees. So let's just assume you have a total estimated cost. So in 5 years, we'll have spent $658,000. All right, not spent, we'll have saved $658,000. 43 of that is for county, for their 7% assessment. So your individual cost per household, take that total number divided amongst 17 people, you're looking at about $38,000, $39,000 over 5 years. So but they're going to add that to they're going to add that to your taxes at the end of every year. So you're looking at $7,700 additional property tax every year. That's directly going to affect your mortgage. Your property taxes are tied to your escrow, directly tied to your mortgage. So it's going to cause your mortgage to go up. So then, let's say, so we construct the road, then now we've got to do the long-term maintenance, right? So let's say it's going to be $155,000 for long-term maintenance over 20 years. In perpetuity, meaning from year 6, 7 on to forever, or as long as we're maintaining it, we would owe $490 a year.
More taxes.
Now again, these numbers here are the ones that are going to shift depending on the property values. But to just kind of get a ballpark, wrap your head around some numbers, and have a discussion. This is it. Finance option number one, so that's finance option number one, repair option number one. Let's look at finance option number one, public improvement district. But let's look at that compared to repair option number two, where we just repair getaway, not pave it. You're looking at $2,800 a year for the first 5 years, $179 from years 6 on. So there is substantial savings and out-of-pocket expenses, but like Francis said, the difference between 77 and 28, you can make that up with the time that we spend to maintain it, because it's still be us, or we'll be hiring a contractor. So that's the other thing. The county doesn't take ownership of all this stuff. Like, it's still ours. It's just, it's gonna be public roads that are privately maintained. So, anyway,
Road rating still has to be.
yeah, so there is some out-of-pocket savings up front, but every month, when somebody's out there on a tractor plowing or road grading, or, you know, we get, you know, flash flood, it wipes out all the washboard, or it wipes out all the pavement, or it wipes out all the road base, someone's gotta go into the field, turn the floor back in. You know, so anyway, if we go to, sorry, I kind of jumped that one there. So here I just basically kind of put the two on paper just so you can kind of take a quick look and see it side by side. So you're looking at $7,700 versus $28,500 a year for maintenance on years 6 and on versus $179.
So basically, like, years ago, we had the snow and water, and we were plowing and paying for that. Is the county gonna come in and plow it?
No,
Or, so it's still, everything's part.
So that can be part of long-term maintenance, you know, so a PID, you form a district, it's like forming like a road association, like you're an entity. There's board members, which would consist of members of us, just like an HOA. County engineer would be attached to the PIDs. So every month, you know, like when maintenance issues arise, you know, like the board would say, hey, we need to get a contractor to come in and do it. So kind of like how modern HOAs manage that. That's in theory how it would operate.
But they're not gonna come down through the snowstorm and clear us out.
You know, with it being a public road, you think they would.
So we've been part of one of these, that's where we moved from, we moved here. So they maintain, when it snowed after the PID took over, they maintained it. So as far as, you know, snow removal and everything, I'm gonna tell you, they gave one pass up and through and around, that was about it, but they did maintain it when we were part of it.
so they will come in and put new road base on. And if there's sports board.
So, but you said that they wouldn't plow, you're saying that they definitely do.
Well, when we were, the one we were part of, they did, they plowed, now they paved, they came through and paved. Again, it was section by section in our neighborhood, where, you know, they took a road when they had enough money, they paved that road, and then now when they went to assessments, there's certain of you that are gonna hate it. You're one of them, I'm gonna tell you that right now, because they hammered some people in the neighborhood, and some people, they actually lowered their assessment by the time they were done.
Is that based on his?
It was based on valuation of the house. So as the neighborhood went around, there were some people now, and even on some of the senior side, there were some special breaks on that side also for them. That actually really discounted their. So it's not a total fair deal when this comes around to that. Of saying, okay, you know, your assessment, my assessment, your assessment are all gonna be the same. There's gonna be some big differences in assessments.
You have some people over, is it 65 with the senior exemption?
Yes.
Pick up the difference.
Well, not necessarily, it's just that
They're gonna spread it around to other people.
they spread it around. I mean, it's gonna be
I can tell you that my wife paid a whole lot less than our kids' house.
well, but that, and it's true though. I mean, has been talked about something like that. I guess at the same time, is what stops us from doing this privately is hey, we're on a 5-year, we're raising our assessments this. County doesn't necessarily have to be involved with some of that. If it's a true need, I mean, there's whatever that is, a money market, or some sort of thing that, yeah, we raise ourselves and stuff.
I'll interject here. Unless you form a legal entity that has the right to assess every party, it will never happen. You can't get loan banking, and this community won't pull it off, because there will be people say, I'm not gonna put anything into it. What will end up happening is 2 or 3 people will end up funding a great deal of the project, and it will not happen. But I've looked at this with
That's right,
Sure.
that's right.
And we've got a couple other finance options I'll talk about. Again, I just want to reiterate, I'm not saying this is something, one of these set stuff like that. Just throwing out some information, maybe some people have got some ideas, some other things. Other solutions to come up with. So this right here, this paragraph, remember I was telling you about the 4 to 5 time differential? That's just the example. I put that in there longhand so that those that can't be here, I'm going to email it to them, they can read that, and hopefully it makes sense. All right, so finance option number 2, this is the bonds that we were talking about, possibly issuing bonds. If you just want to go down here to $4,900 in additional annual taxes, I don't know how accurate this number is. There's a lot of unknowns. The biggest unknown is when the county says there's going to be additional 20 to 30% fees. Right? They didn't tell me which fees. But they did say there's definitely some additional costs, and you're still going to have to pay for the interest the interest yield that you're going to put on the bonds, or else people aren't going to buy the bonds. They want to make money. And so when you start adding all that up and you amortize that over 15 years, you're looking at $4,900 in additional taxes every single year for 15 years. So it's
And most bonds get refinanced. So
it's just, to me, we would really, I have to do some more homework into this. I just don't see how this would make sense. But the county says that they have done that before, created a PID, and instead of doing the mill levy tax, they issued bonds. But they said it's not something that they do very often, and it's because of the 20 to 30% markup is why they. But if that's something that people were interested in, I'm all for meeting with the county and like, all right, give me a list of these fees, what would really apply to us? And I'm guessing that 4,900. Well, even if I'm 3/4 the way there, you're still looking at what, $3,500 every single year for the next 5 years, or the next 15 years.
It's a 15-year part.
So it's So a PID where they do the mill levy, I mean, at least you're only paying that 7%. Here we're paying 6.5% plus the 7% for county fees because it's still a PID. So it really starts to add up. So this is something that we would have to do some more research on, but it is an option, just something that for us to consider. Repair and finance option number 3, the ad hoc. So this is where, hey, there was a little micro flood and it washed out the road base. How much can you give? Oh, I can only do 500. Well, I can do 2,000, and I don't want to give anything. That's the challenge with ad hoc repairs. It's not preventive. You're reactive. You're reacting to it. You're not preventing. If we were to invest and fix the roads, that's why we would put all that drainage improvements and stuff in there. So when we do get heavy rains, the likelihood of the roads washing out will be minimized. I mean, look at John Galt. It survived all these, these massive floods where we literally had lakes out here on some of these, flash floods. John Galt does great. Getaway is just, it's a nightmare. We spend in the next 2-3 weeks trying to fix it. So, ad hoc repairs, it's also, not everybody's got a tractor, not everybody's got the time or the know-how to run a road grader and all that kind of stuff, so you're really dependent on.
Even the guy who drives a little bit.
Well, and I hate to say it, but I said, I will work with substandard at best, and we're not operators, we don't operate, road graders on our, so, we do the best that we can, and yeah, it's better than nothing, but.
And it's a bit improvement over when it was originally here, so.
So other options.
Just give you guys some numbers. So road grader was $32,000. So my wife and I bought the road grader. Then diesel fuel, we probably used 15 to 20 gallons per time. So it's not. The road grader, if we did the PID or something like that, I'd sell it. So it hasn't been an issue with me. Don't say, hey, how about this? It's waste of time. I do it or
So some other options. So this is kind of where we were talking about, there's those different ways of seeing this stat. So one of them would be like, well, you know what? I want to pay everything because that's just too much money. I can't afford it. Maybe you look at making the repairs 10 years from now. And if you did that, that's basically cutting your annual contribution in half. You're still paying the same, it just makes it more manageable if you're on a tight budget and stuff like that.
What we have to do though is for 10 years, live with what we've been living with.
Yeah, yes.
With the way it is, you guys would have assumed that I don't die.
And then, another option, break the project up into 2 phases. So as opposed to what we taxed for $615,000 all at once, maybe we just look at, all right, what's going to take to get away, and then 5 years after that, we'll redo the mill levy tax to pay for those repairs, and then we're on long-term maintenance and stuff. So we do got some options there that would lower the costs and stuff. But again, like Francis said, you're going to extend, to think that it's going to be 10 years before I'm going to get a quality road, that's hard to swallow, but it's not. One-time assessment, again, that's kind of where hey, everybody just comes in, well, everybody just agrees, $30,000 each, well, just fund it ourselves. I know $30,000 sounds like a lot of money for a road, but to get over a mile and a half paved road, I was actually kind of baffled it was that cheap, to be honest. I thought it was going to be $1 million plus. So, anyway, then, I said a blended option, where you got a combination of stuff. So now, here's one that came up last night. Kelly Hamill gave me this idea of private equity. And so, Kelly is like, he really wants the roads to remain private. So he doesn't want to do the PID because he doesn't like the idea of people coming and being able to protest and stuff. And I don't think that's going to happen, but I get it. He likes the fact that this is a private road, a private community. We have the right to kick people out and don't belong here. He really likes it and values that. So his idea was, hey, maybe some of us who have the money put a pool together to pay for the road repairs. While everybody else who can't afford to pay for the road repairs will take a 0-interest loan to be repaid back to the investors at the time of your house sells. Now, I don't know if that's feasible or not, because now you're talking putting the entire financial burden onto just a few individuals. But that's up for those people to decide if they want to do that. You're basically, this is what he told me. I would have thought he would have said, hey, let's put at least 3% interest on there to make people, want to invest. But he was so adamant about keeping this private and having everything safe, he's just like, I'd be happy to throw in a couple $100,000, into the pot, and then just whenever somebody sells a house 20 years down the road, just repay me back. So there's zero out-of-pocket expenses for borrowers. So it looks really attractive to everybody, but if we don't have enough investors to fund the project, then, maybe we're facing it, or maybe we're.
And if you're buying a house, would you want to go into that scenario where you're tied, all of a sudden you're buying this house, but it comes with this like,
Well,
Yeah, but that would be done at sale though. You guys still.
So we would then,
You would have to pay it off at sale.
But typically, he will add that price.
and so,
They don't get it.
and so if you're looking at, what you're gonna end up owing is $38,000. I mean, I would think the amount of increased property value that we're gonna get will easily be that. Not only that, if you ever go to sell your house, I think you're gonna be able to ask for a little bit more, and I think it's gonna sell a hell of a lot faster. You're not gonna be sitting here for 18 months, reading people's comments saying like the road sucks and everything, so just something to think about that is a benefit to this.
Jason,
Yes, sir.
there's another item. When we first moved here in 2011, I read the county rules and regulations, and it said that citizens in the county that if they deliver mail to homes, the county is responsible for road. So in 2011, I called them to find out, hey, back then it was just two-track tractor. And most everybody, when it got money, stopped 43 and Hyde Cole. So I said, they said, yeah. We'll get back to you. So about 2 weeks later, they called me up and they said, well, we're going to do it. We've got it scheduled. 2 months from now, we're going to come out and pay all of this. By the way, every homeowner is going to get on the average $5,000 a month increase in their taxes in perpetuity. So forever. Which I said, no, thank you. So that happened in 2011. So last week I called to see if that was still the case. Well, property tax gone up. They said, no, it's a lot more money if we just come and pay. So I'm just letting you know, the county does have a responsibility, according to their rules, to maintain, pay these roads. But their stick is, they're going to charge everybody property tax forever.
And so the last 2 pages, I found the flyer on PIDs on the county's website. I just threw it on there just so it's got some FAQs, some just general information. Because I don't know, I had to read this thing like 5 times before I probably understood what was going on. So anyway, so I attached that here. That's it. That's all I got.
you did a great job.
Yeah. Thank you.
A lot of work, I'm sure. Yes.
I'm gonna make a comment, because I looked at this differently. Jason's done a lot of work with upfront expenses and things in terms of if you jump into something. I'm gonna approach it from a little different angle in terms of the math that I have done, working with our HOA. To leave John Galt as asphalt and to turn Getaway into gravel, or leave it as gravel, but maintain it as such. No matter how I slice and dice it, all 17 households were going to have to pay between $75 and $85 a month. If it was dispersed equally, there was no other way around it. That's simply what it was going to cost. So
That's it? 75 to
75 to $85.
That's why I've been waiting on that bottom line.
Well, but that's if you don't lump sum it up front. And so if you're going to get something improved up front, somehow there has to be an upfront source of money. So I'm just sharing it with you though, I want you to put, my desire is to think about that. This issue will not go away or will not get resolved unless all 17 households are willing to include that in their budget, that kind of a number in their budget.
So wait a minute, so 75 to 85 a month?
From now till,
With no
No, it's still requires up front.
That's
no,
no cash up front?
no, the way I was doing it was saying, okay, if we all put money at
How
some
much?
75 to 85 a month,
No, how much up front?
no, I need you to listen.
Right.
75 to 85 a month until we had enough of a pool that we could go get a loan to borrow money to do the first section of repair. As you're paying that down, then you can start building up for the next. All I'm saying is, if you look from today till all of us are dead, discounting that there's no inflation, it's gonna take $75 to $85 a month. And how much are we putting in today? 0. So I'm just sharing that from a perspective standpoint. So this will not get resolved until that kind of financial.
So, given the ups and downs and all that, would be the maximum. That we have to pay some certain time.
But that gets back into how do you upfront this?
So I don't know.
So
That's a question.
So one of the ideas was like, well, hey, why don't we all just agree to create a savings account every month or every year, everybody throws money in, and once we have enough money, we'll just do repairs ourselves. That's fine and dandy until 5 years go down the road and someone's like, no, I'm gonna sell my place. If I get my $15,000 back, please, I want it back, and then now you're in like this, you know,
Forever loop.
Well, that's the their HOA has been, we have people that haven't paid dues in 2 years, so it's just, you know, you can't make somebody fork over cash unless the government makes you do it, evidently, just from experience, history, and so it's just, and I know not everybody is in the boat, but that's just what's happening.
Yeah,
Well, you're not in this.
we have an HOA here in the getaway area. It's just in.
It should have all been, and honestly, an extra, it should have, but they screwed up by not having them.
Well, on my deed, it says there's an HOA.
There's HOAs, there's several.
yeah, there's a few of them up here, it's just they're, from my understanding, like they weren't. Somebody submitted paperwork or something to create an HOA, but it was never fully implemented, so it's. Like, we would have to then finish that, so, but,
It should have been one, I guess it's.
yeah.
So John and Andrew, are in one HOA.
Not really your own HOA, it's just special.
That's what Sunday, that was just, so, there's a flag, you know, and it says HOA.
Ours says no HOA,
That's interesting.
because it was a weird thing. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, wait, this is a bunch of farmland with part.
Yes. Yes, so they set it aside. Yes.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
It's also like, I'm sure some of that, in our property, we have a right to drill a well, water line. Water well rights, I have, as you check your local Thompson, sure. It's in your deed, who drilled your well. So there's things that everybody's needs, every detail.
Does anybody have any feedback or general comments or questions?
Are you gonna have everybody get back by a certain time on what their thoughts are?
You know, I'd say what, maybe half of us are here.
I think half.
I've talked with Billy Himmel, I've talked with Janice Sager. Really, I guess really at the end of the day, until Dan moves, and Dell moves, kind of at an impasse, right? Like, you know, even if all of us here said, yay, let's do it, I mean, those guys don't want to really do anything. I mean, we need to wait for the new residents to come in, bring them up to speed.
I mean, how hard of a holdout is Kelly? I mean, he said he's not willing to do it, and if that's the only option.
Kelly also said that he wouldn't go against. Yeah, the collective. So if he's like, so if everybody says they wanna do it this way, he's like, you know, I'm not gonna be the guy that stops it. He's like,
Kevin told me the same thing.
but he says, he's like, he's like, I would gladly contribute a couple $100,000 into a pot and just fund it. And that's the other thing about the private equity, we're funded now, we could be under construction in a year. So, like, it would be pretty quick. But, yeah, I just, you're asking a lot of people to do that, and I don't know, and that's Kelly's point of view, I don't know what everybody else's point of view is on it. All I know is, I would not be an investor, so. Unfortunately,
I will tell that.
I think I would just put in my $40,000, my contribution, I would probably do is just be like, you know what? I'd rather just pay you the money now than at closing. So that would probably be me, but I could.
So Jason, I know this. I mean, he grows up around here. Someone comes in and says, we're gonna develop this whole area, we'll do it all. We don't. Something like that.
That's assuming that you're gonna sell it.
Well, I'm just saying, yeah, but, you know, if the soft is rich enough, maybe everybody will.
Well, so Dell's got 60 acres. He tried to work,
I would do it.
Dell tried to work with a couple developers to buy that place. He thought he was sitting on a gold mine. He's like, you know what, I'm gonna subdivide this, and sell off all the properties, and I'm gonna sell my property, then I'm gonna sell my house. And you know, he thought he was gonna cash in on it. Well, when you wanna do a subdivision like that, the county's like, all right, come in, let's do what's called a pre-application. Before you submit your application to this county, come talk to us, tell us what you wanna do, and we'll give you a checklist of things that you need to come prepared for. And so that's when you have it, you get enlightened. It's like, back in the day, you could subdivide and leave everything alone. County doesn't do that anymore. So if you want to do a subdivision like that, you have to make all the improvements. You have to bring all the utilities. And they're like, you know, you're gonna have to spend X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars making these improvements, bringing water and stuff. And then you still have to pay a raw water deficit. Meaning, if you take, right now, your parcel, you all have your water tap, your fee, you know, when they subdivided that, you know, there's like, at the time, it was probably, when these went in, it was probably $10,000. Now it's like $35,000, $40,000. So that's your water right for that one, yeah, your tap fee, that's your water right for that one house. The moment you say, I wanna take my property now, I wanna divide it up, and I wanna put multi-family units, condos, or even just single-family homes, now you have a deficit. You need to provide a certain amount of raw water to now, you know, feed those homes. And so raw water deficit is priced based on Colorado Big Thompson, and a unit of Colorado Big Thompson is like $85,000. So if you were to like say Dell wanted to subdivide, he's like, I want to put in 15 3-acre parcels and stuff and all that. The county would then come back like, well, you need to provide a 3.5 acre foot deficit. Meaning you would have to go out and acquire water rights, and dedicate that to the county. The county then takes those water rights and they convert them into, you know, municipal uses also. But ultimately, when Dale went in there, he got sticker shock. You know, he's like, basically, he's gonna have to put in, you know, like $600,000 worth of improvements and do, you know. So I guess what I'm saying is,
We had this meeting before, just like this, a long time ago. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, Front Range is going up, doing this. It's gonna reach us at some point. Someone else is gonna come in and say, we'll buy you all and improve it.
Only if you sell.
Well, I'm just saying, that's, you know, that's still something to think about.
So, you know, when is that gonna happen? How much longer?
That's the question. How long is it gonna be?
10 years.
I don't know how long it's gonna be, but what I'm saying is that you can just see this, some at some point, someone is gonna say, let's, maybe down here for other reasons.
I would just make a recommendation that, you come up with a collective, you probably, I'm not gonna stick you, task you or whatever, but I think we need a punch list of kind of where do you stand on these four key issues. And in the interest of making some kind of decision moving forward, I think you said that you were gonna brief the people who weren't here, that we set a date. Get back to us, maybe tonight, like, this is how I feel, I under no circumstances want to do this, but I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to see my property, I'm not willing to give a right of way access, just where does everybody stand on the issues, and maybe a date. But we should get back to everybody so that we can make some sort of forward motion.
Let me say one other thing.
Hang on, I think that we can move forward without them selling their properties, we can at least make a collective decision, because they are the two people that need to see right of way access.
So I just want to say one other thing, that I've been down here since basically the beginning. I think there's one other house or something, it's been 23 years. It was a trail. And it was perfect. You had to stop for one other car to go by, and I loved it. The washboard that's on there now is simply because of some stuff that was put over the top. And when you talk about grading, we had it graded 3 times out here, and you have a cutting blade on your grader, a really good grader, to get it up this thick, and once it's shale, this guy put, I don't know how many thousands of tons of shale on that thing. And it graded it down perfectly. One grading like that a year is all that's needed. And I don't like to go fast on this road.
Every 2 weeks.
No, I've been here, this, I'm telling you, not when you do that, it's, the washboard comes from the stuff that was put on top.
So,
I just did it.
No, you didn't, he didn't cut it down, he didn't cut it down, I did. It didn't get cut like that, I guarantee you, before you got over here, it was graded like this and cut way up, so it was just all shale everywhere, there's nothing else on the top. It's not. My friend broke on everything.
so,
You need a cutting blade on the grader.
so the other thing I forgot to talk about was dust. Obviously, you pave it, dust goes away, which I know probably everybody's super excited about. But let's say you couldn't get a majority to do paving, but everybody's like, fine, let's just suck it up and fix it away. There are other dust abatement measures we can do. We can spray, an application, top coat application, on a dirt road, and it will help prevent washboard, and it'll help prevent dust. But it's something you gotta reapply every 3 to 4 years, depending on traffic. And if nobody subdivides, Francis, and it's just us, and construction's done, heavy construction's done, then really it's just our households that are using the road. So this,
Question. So my understanding on that application is at some point this must maybe have crushed concrete comes on this road.
yes, okay, so we imported recycled concrete because it was cheap.
Sure. So I guess my question on that application is, they said that it won't hold up as well with crushed concrete as a base.
So we would actually have to import like 4 to 6 inches of CDOT Class 6 road base, legit road base. Because the problem Francis is having road grading is there's no meat there. There's no, you need 6 inches of road base for that road grader to crown. And without ever touching soil. Right now, every time he road grades, he's importing soil from the shoulder and putting it right in the middle, and then it starts over time, it starts to turn the road into mud. So we would need to import. So what we brought in wasn't nearly enough, but it was all we could afford at the time. And it was better than nothing, because I mean, people were going down the roads when it was muddy. The mud was sticking to their cars. It was like causing drive shafts to go bad and wheel brakes and stuff to fail because they were packing. And it's that tacky mud that just sticks to it once it dries. It's like concrete. So anyway, we did that as a last a real quick attempt to fix it, and it's a huge improvement, but you're right. In hindsight, I would have loved just T-Dot Class 6 road base all the way across here, and then, but I mean, we're gonna put you on.
As soon as you get traffic on it, like we had on John Paul, when that cost. Yeah, it does. And then we have to, go in, go the road.
You know, there was never any washboard on here before the, before the, road base started.
So there is another option,
Exactly.
Jason, there's another option, it's just continue doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
That needs to be, or what you said, 4 options or something.
Well, there's a couple issues with that. It's this, I mean, it's just, keep doing what we're doing.
It's not
Maybe
very
that
good.
should be on the punch list. Do you wanna keep doing what we're doing? Because, it's not working. I mean, if we have a kick at the John Golf can down the road, and I know not everybody lives on John Golf, we can drive on John Golf, and not everybody lives there. But it's gonna have to be addressed at some point. It's having all sorts of issues and continues to deteriorate. Getaway could be, maintain status quo, possibly, I don't know, because I don't drive every day, I'm not familiar with these issues, but John Golf not. But this is the issue that we first talked about in the background, the first thing. We got this issue with the construction, this, A shape where people drive on it and don't live there, who's paying for it, the whole thing. That's why it can continue as it is.
No one should be driving on John Galt.
That's understand that, but it does happen, and so it's just.
Well, but another thing to consider is John Gold is so far, is so far gone. Even if everybody said, you know what, we're not gonna use John Gold anymore. It doesn't matter, you still got trash trucks, you still got construction workers, housekeepers, whoever, landscapers and stuff to use it. On top of, you've got over a half mile of pavement that 4 people use.
My
To
best,
expect those 4 people to pay for that, it's not.
watching the traffic, my best guess is 60 to 70% of the traffic on John Galt is not our insurance.
They shouldn't be on.
I think you're right.
Like a private road sign down there or something.
But, you got, like you said, you've got trailers on the line, you've got yes, you can't keep everybody off, I know the Nygards were building their house for everybody. It crushed the edges, and that's not their fault.
Yeah, things like me, I drive for RAFT, which is the volunteer organization, we pick up people on John Galt. So we'll pick them up, or like more traffic.
I was not here at the time, but my understanding is there was efforts to restrict driving on John Galt. And let me just summarize by saying, I don't think it went.
Chris put it out there very short and then opened it up for everybody. Like, I never drove on it, but he wanted some, maintenance on the oil and sand, and I paid him. I used it for a while and decided I shouldn't use it anymore. I got a few years out of it, and I said, okay, that's good enough.
I'm willing to pay a certain amount on top of my mortgage just to stop all the hate, discontent that has been over years in this room and predecessors and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's where the dollar counts to me. I hate it. I hate that we can sit here and say, well, someone said in this nice house, someone said that. I hate it. And, to me, raise my mortgage, get rid of it all. Let's just be, I know it's not equal footing, and that's the problem, is people have higher property values than no living. I don't know, there's got to be something.
I'm gonna piggyback on what Esther suggested a little bit ago, and I'm gonna say this. Would it be fair 3 months from right now to have surveyed everyone or talked to everyone that's not here and come back with a report and maybe even another?
Do we need 3 months?
I don't know. I'm just throwing that out, get something on the
I
table.
figured we're gonna probably have to do this a couple times, because I figured there's gonna be some questions, I gotta go back to the county. We can maybe cross off and eliminate a couple things, and I can start focusing more on, other options and stuff, like.
You need to make the options real clear, right now.
I think there's one other option. That we do. Once a year, professional grading of getaway at the reservoir. once a year, professional grading, John Gall. We used to do that and I was like,
We would still need to bring in road base stuff.
So you
So
take for
there's, I think any way you slice.
oh, we gotta figure out how to take work.
Yeah.
You're right, the agreement and everything, but it worked. And they had no road base on it when we did that. It was all shale underneath there.
How many people were driving on it?
Well, the biggest thing right now is traffic from.
How many people,
Don't
how many
take
people
us
at that time were driving?
About the same amount, except not the builders,
Not the what?
not the builders, the people that were doing this house.
I'm not gonna challenge you, but how many people could be